We got a whole lot of guess who won and guess who lost today here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
No doubt about that. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am the host, Tony Wiggins, of the second edition of the Locked On NFL show that comes on here daily. And he is Julian Council, of course, always here with me on a Monday, ready to run it down on Locked On NFL and use the help of local experts to give you an idea of what's actually going on around the National Football League. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for the highlights in this week's Move the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day where they get their podcast, wherever they watch or listen, and you can do the same thing. If you're not an everydayer, we'll just be glad to have you back. We also like to thank you for listening to Locked On NFL, and a reminder that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music. So go check that out. We're going to check out Julian in just a second. I'm going to let you know where we're going to end up and where we're going to start. Texans send the Ravens closer to misery as if they ain't there already. We'll talk about that at the end, right in the middle. Little rookie Kellen Moore led the Titans to one win, their first win. We'll discuss that, come from behind. And then the Saints go marching into the win column. That's where we're going to get going. The fighting Ross Jacksons of the New Orleans Saints. They didn't necessarily beat it wasn't David versus Goliath, but it was the Saints who were supposed to be real awful, winning a real good game against the Giants yesterday.
Yeah, and look, man, Spencer Rattler has actually been playing some pretty good football, even if the Saints have been losing these games. So I give him a lot of credit, and I think that win was obviously big for him, as New Orleans is going to be one of those teams that we look at as looking for a quarterback in the 2026 draft, which that class ain't looking as good as we thought it was going to look coming into the college football season if you look around the entire country. So big for him, and big, obviously, for Kellen Moore to get that first win and not to be sitting here for the first half of the season without a win. So, yeah, good for New Orleans. And now some real questions on Brian Daboll. Once again, last week was fun with the win in Jackson Dart's debut, but then Malik Neighbors basically, it seems like tears everything in his body. He's out for the season. And Brian Daboll, yet another loss, and more questions to answer whether he is going to be the right guy for New York long term.
Before we get to them, and we're going to talk about them, of course, because I saw those little tweets during the game telling everybody that the Saints were playing against the quarterback that they should have drafted. I saw y'all in broad daylight. You know what I mean? Let's hear from Ross Jackson and talk about the Saints winning their first game.
The New Orleans Saints get their first win of the season. Kellen Moore's first win as a head coach, and Spencer Rattler's first win as a starting quarterback, winning 26-14 up against the New York Giants. And the story of the game really isn't Kellen Moore or Spencer Rattler, though great for them to get their first wins. How about this New Orleans Saints defense that completely turned things around? Led up 2 touchdowns on the first 2 New York Giants possessions, but then 5 straight turnovers forced after a pair of punts, and then finished the game on a turnover on downs. Kool-Aid McKinstry not just getting his first interception of his career, but his second interception of his career. I was told he had a fantastic week of prep. It certainly looked like it out on the field. The New Orleans Saints turned a corner on the defensive side to win this game. Whether or not it means they turned a corner for the rest of their season remains to be seen, but nonetheless, New Orleans Saints victors in Week 5 over the New York Giants.
Kool-Aid, that was my grandson's name when he was first born. It's cool to have a dude with a name like Kool-Aid, except if Kool-Aid is the one that got his first and second picks against you. Happy for the Saints, happy for those fans, happy for Ross. Finally get the report on them winning the game.
Yeah.
The Giants, man. From what I saw on TV, this is a hot mess. And to me, all of that goodwill from 1 week goes right out of the window, because I'm going to remind everybody, Daniel Jones won again yesterday. They scored more than 40 points for the Colts. They both done, man, and they got to prolong this and make this go 12 more games. This ain't going to be good.
No, it's not. And like honestly, like I'm thinking about New Orleans. Like it's not like they've been getting blown out in these
Haven't.
games, if we're being honest. Because
Haven't.
but last week they played Buffalo pretty tightly. Yeah, they got blown up by Seattle, and Sam Darnold looked awesome yesterday. You also look at the Niners game in week 2; they weren't bad in that game. You go back to week 1 against the Cardinals; they lose that by 1 possession. So they have been competitive. Now the Giants. Yeah, it's tough. And like as encouraging, I suppose the Jackson Dart debut was. Once you lose Malik Neighbors, you lose his best offensive weapon. You cannot expect it to be as
Right.
good as it was for him that Sunday. Also, just his play style is reckless. If you watch them back at Ole Miss, every single game, it felt like, especially last year, he was in and out of the injury tent. Yeah, the guy's a warrior. He brings the kind of mindset and mentality you probably need for a quarterback in New York, and just having a young quarterback trying to turn around a franchise. But I worry whether he's going to be able to make it through the entire season. And then the mistakes that he's made those mistakes back in the past when Lane Kiffin was his head coach. And I look at Kiffin, I think he's a hell of better play caller and quarterback evaluator and coach than Brian Daboll, because look at Daniel Jones, who went out there and got it done again. So, yeah, Daboll, I really do appreciate that the Mara family was willing to sit there, be patient with the head coach, because I think far too often we pull the plug. Well, not we, owners pull the plug on coaches too quickly nowadays in this instant gratification society. But, man, it's not going to work. And maybe it would have
No.
been better for them to have moved on.
Yeah, and something that you always talk about with quarterbacks, like I think it's you and Chris, it's like at least now the Saints appear the point that you made about the way Spencer Rattler's playing. Look, don't force it. If you get up there in the first round and that dude ain't worth it, don't do it. Just wait. You can ride this out with Spencer, and he can still show you what your team can be, and you can still continue to build it until the right situation comes
And
along.
once upon a time, we thought Spencer Rattler could have been the number one overall pick, because when
We sure did.
I guess it was 3 years ago now when he was at Oklahoma and they were one of the top ranked teams in the country. He was the Heisman Trophy favorite that going into the year. He was expected to be the number 1 overall pick. I believe he was the favorite in Vegas as well. And then he struggles. They get to Red River, which coincidentally is this upcoming weekend. And there's another guy who people were expecting to be the number 1 overall pick and to be the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who's going to play in that game. And I don't know, maybe Arch Manning gets benched, but that's what happened to Spencer Rattler on that Saturday. He got benched in favor of Caleb Williams, and well, Caleb goes on to be the number 1 overall pick and the Heisman Trophy winner. Damn, whoever's a backup quarterback might end up being number 1 overall pick and the Heisman Trophy winner. But things have been like Spencer had to leave. He didn't quit the team. That was a guy when you watch the Netflix show of QB1, you thought, oh man, that kid's a jerk. He's going to quit the team there. He didn't. He stood there the rest of the season, went to South Carolina, turned things around. Now's in a position where maybe with Kellen Moore, he can actually end up being a franchise quarterback after all. And Tyler Shuck's still waiting his turn if he's going to get it.
Yeah, man, he is going to get it. Speaking of early picks, no clip here, but I know you being a North Carolina Tar Heel supporter and all of that stuff and loving them. You sat up and watched Drake May allow Stephon Diggs to go into Buffalo and get their revenge last night. What's your impressions of that game?
My impressions are okay. Maybe Diggs still got it, because I certainly, and I watched the last 2 games because they played Carolina last week and that thumping of the Panthers rather up in New England. And then he had 100 yards receiving that game, did it again last night. I know that one meant a lot to him because he has those relationships with those guys up in Buffalo, having spent a large portion of his career there. But he looked awesome. And I had a lot of questions about whether New England had enough around Drake May heading into year 2, and getting Stephon Diggs clearly through 5 weeks, at least the last 2 weeks, has been a massive signing for them. Keyshawn Butte made a couple of plays, but yeah, I mean, that's the Drake May that I've seen for years now. And you look at the play where he has a defender, I think it was AJ Epinesa, just draped all over him, and he's still able to find Stephon Diggs. That reminded me of play his final year in Chapel Hill, where they're on the road at Pitt, had a guy all over him, and he throws it with his left hand. Mind you, he's right-handed, and made a touchdown. So, like, that's just who Drake May is. He stood in there, handled the pressure. He's seen plenty of it because he did not have great offensive lines in Chapel Hill either. Dude's a stud. Glad to see the entirety of the NFL, get to see him in prime time in that setting at Buffalo. And now you look at it, the Bills have an easy schedule. The AFC East is still not good outside of the outside of them and clearly the Patriots, as the Jets are the Jets and have not won a game, and Miami blew a 17-0 lead to Carolina on Sunday. So clearly things aren't good there. And I saw Mike McDaniel after the game. He did not look like a guy who's going to be sticking around much longer there in Miami. Yeah. I thought that was an awesome performance by Drake. Mike Vrabel's exactly what they needed. And I'm going to still pick Buffalo to win that division. But things are a lot more interesting with that win by New England and the fact that they have to go to Foxborough later on this year and face off against Buffalo again. So if they get that sweep, we'll see. But yeah, big win for Drake May, for Mike Vrabel and the Pats.
Tyler Oland and the fighting Tennessee Titans got themselves on the board in the win column. We'll talk about their upset win in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show sponsored by Square. Hey, listen, man, this episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives as well. You got a dog, man, I'm telling you, there is a pet place in your neighborhood that loves your pets just like you do, and they take Square, and they'll process your payment, and you won't have one problem. Your favorite wing joint right down the street from me here on Yellow Bluff Road, and right next to them, my favorite taco place too, right here in Jacksonville. You can look that up for yourself and find out where Square is, because it's a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Also today, we're sponsored by our friends over at Mazda, making those dope vehicles, man. I'm telling you, it's all about moving the game forward. And for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. Those moments, man, that do more than put points on the board, they move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is by my man Kool-Aid McKinstry. Not only did he get his first and his second interception to help New Orleans beat the New York Giants, but it restored hope in the franchise. And that is what it's all about. It's about confidence that you can get from Mazda also. When you make the moves that moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, moving and grooving here with my man Julian Council here on Locked On NFL. We're talking about teams that win and it surprises you, teams that lose and it surprises you. You say, well, Wig, if somebody wins, it surprises me. Of course it surprises me when the other team loses. No, I ain't talking about teams that played each other. I'm talking about teams that win, that beat somebody else, and then teams that lose to other teams. Now, Arizona's had their problems this year. They had a dude drop the ball before he got to the end zone yesterday. Coach went off on him on the sideline after having a big lead too. But mainly what you saw was Cam Ward, even in the situation that he's in where their coach is probably also going to get fired and they have not done well. Sometimes a guy can shine through just enough to show you exactly who he is, regardless of a bad situation. And Cam Ward did it for Tyler Oland yesterday. Check my man Tyler from Locked On Titans.
Let's go! The Tennessee Titans win a football game. Cam Ward is clutch, baby. They're on the board. My God, it was an ugly game. It was classic Tennessee Titans crap fest to start, but all of a sudden, I send a tweet saying Cam Ward has been sucking, and he goes insane. I mean, Cam absolutely caught fire. Calvin Ridley made big plays. Chigga got going. The defense made the big-time stops. What just happened? The Tennessee Titans won a football game, baby. It was ugly. It was drunk. It was insane. But my God, it was a win. Cam Ward so absolutely clutch. Calvin Ridley caught the ball. I mean, what an incredible time. Get the Locked On Titans right now. We are going off.
I didn't know if he was talking about a football game or some single dude in a bar leaving at night. Said it was ugly, it was insane, but it's a win. A win is a win when you're drunk, right? It does not matter what it looks like. But good for them, good for him. I don't think they're going to do it much longer all through the year, but it's good that we don't look at the first round pick and blame him for the whole team being bad.
Well, I don't know why anyone would. He did say last week, if we're keeping it a buck, we asked. So, I mean, he was out here saying they weren't good, and he was saying that he was playing bad. So, there's nothing that we could say that would be worse than what Cam Ward said about them in his own right. So, yeah, I mean, obviously great for Tennessee to get that win. Yeah, Brian Callahan ain't long for that position. He's not done a great job. Cam Ward made some throws that you needed yesterday, and that's great to see. But really, the story here is Arizona and what happened there with Amari DiMercato, who pulled a Deshaun Jackson and Adonai Mitchell, because we saw this a week ago too, Wig. We've seen, I mean, Kalen Clay. We've seen so many guys do this. I just don't understand how it keeps happening. It's just wild to me, but that really was the difference in the game, because that's a touchdown. And I think they would have been up like 3 scores or whatever it would have been, maybe 2, had he scored and not fumbled the ball. So I look at Arizona and I wonder where they go from here, because this is the team that lost a close game to Seattle on Thursday night a week ago. They were a team that lost a close game against San Francisco by a point after that. Like, they started off 2-0. They had beat, New Orleans and Carolina, so not a ton to write home there. But now you lose to Tennessee, and you're sitting at 2-3. You thought that this was an opportunity, and you look at the rest of that division, like they're kind of running away from you at this point in time with the way the Rams have played, the way that the Seahawks look with Sam Darnold, and obviously the 49ers as well, who's already beaten you. Like that's my concern. So yeah, great for Tennessee. You're on the board. You're not going 0-17, but you're probably not going to be winning very many games to begin with in the first place. But it's a great start there for Cam Ward after all the controversy of what he had to say last week, which Jeffrey Simmons did not like. But, truth hurts.
Yeah, the truth does hurt. It also hurts when you're the Super Bowl champion and you're 4-0 and your wide receiver is complaining, and then everybody starts jumping on him like, he's ungrateful. They're the Super Bowl champions. They're unfit. No. See, when you have your finger on the pulse of the team, you know when something's going to bite you in the butt. And I like the fact that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are saying, no, this ain't it, because it means they have a standard. That standard wasn't there yesterday. 17-point lead, losing to the Denver Broncos. And this is a situation where we are going to talk about the two teams that play, because the Broncos aren't a bad team. But I don't expect anybody to go into Philly and come from behind from 17 points. That's exactly what they did. Here's Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos.
Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos offense rally from a 17-3 deficit to stun the Philadelphia Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, on the road here. After the Broncos offense and Nix struggled all throughout the entire first half, the Broncos defense, they found a way to overcome giving up a touchdown on their opening defensive series to start the second half there. Defensively, they got a few more stops there, and Bo Nix in the offense, they put together some incredible drives, including contributions from J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton coming up with some big-time catches on third down, Evan Ingram finally getting involved here late in this Broncos offense, and all of a sudden, Sean Payton and Bo Nix, they opened things up and unlocked a little bit more of this Broncos offense that we've been waiting to see for quite some time. The defense hangs on, and the Broncos, they go to London now next week victorious over the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. For more, make sure you check out the Locked On Broncos podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
This is a 2-year story for me. Denver continues to just blow my mind and make me look like a flat-out idiot for thinking that they did not know what they were doing. I am going to do this until I can't do it anymore. But they did, man. They won, and Philly, all of Philly's warts, even though they were 4-0, they kind of reared their ugly head a little bit yesterday.
Well, we talked about this last week. They look like Kansas City from a year ago. And you look at teams as far as point differential over the last couple of seasons after starting 4-0, the two worst were the Kansas City Chiefs of last year and the Philadelphia Eagles of this season. Now, if that means that Philadelphia is going to get away with it like Kansas City did and get the ass kicked in the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure every Eagles fan will, well, I don't know if every Eagles fan will take that, because they're going to probably be very mad if that happens. But like, hey, it's possible, but I just don't think that we're going to see the same kind of output like KC put out there last year from a Philadelphia Eagles team throughout the entirety of the season, and them get to that point and like 17-point lead blown. Like you say, you don't see that. Actually, it's funny because Carolina came back from 17 points yesterday, and that was the first time that they had done that since they won in Philadelphia back in 2018 when Cam Newton was their quarterback. So I've seen it happen before there in Philadelphia. And like the weird thing was all the conversation was about A.J. Brown's frustration. Devontae Smith, who's far more quiet about it, his frustration. Devontae Smith had a big day, had over 100 yards receiving. A.J. Brown didn't have a big day. Now, Pat Surtain being there is probably a big reason why. But Saquon Barkley got 6 carries. And Saquon hasn't looked like Saquon a year ago. I know he got a lot of work last year. Maybe it's just one of those things where you ran your running back into the ground one season. You got to take some pressure off of him the next season to be able to get him come back the next year after that to be back at that level. I don't know, but like that's also got to be something that we look at and be concerned about. And then like Kevin Patullo, a lot of questions about him as the OC. And are we right back here in the Brian Johnson situation where you got a guy who maybe is not ready to be in that spot? And then obviously Sirianni, when he's called plays, things haven't worked out well. Like, the Eagles are a good football team, but there always seems to be just some slight controversy surrounding them at all times, whether like the vibes are right. People are happy in that locker room. And this kind of feels like another one of those situations right now that's brewing.
It absolutely does. All right, Texans. The Texans have underachieved all year. They look like gangbusters yesterday against a team, well, that is really underachieving. We'll talk about them and the Baltimore Ravens in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and we're through week 5, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Man, my Jaguars play tonight. That's right. Take them. That's what I do. I'm telling you right now, I think the Jaguars are going to upset the Chiefs. But if they give you some points, you can go ahead and take those too, because the Jaguars happen to play a lot of close games. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get yourself started. $5 bet turns into $350 in bonus bets if you win. All right, moving and grooving here. Third and final segment on Locked On NFL, and the Baltimore Ravens are really headed towards football purgatory. They might purge a whole bunch of stuff. Ozzie Newsome ain't walking through that door. All right, he walked out that door a couple of years ago. Slowly but surely, it seems like the thing that the Baltimore Ravens are always able to do is plug and play. Well, Lamar Jackson was out yesterday. Wasn't no plugging and playing yesterday. And guess what? John Hickman is going to tell you exactly how finally the Houston Texans were able to get their offense going and score some points. Locked On Texans right here.
The Houston Texans dominate and, quite frankly, embarrass the Baltimore Ravens in MT Bank Stadium for a 44-10 victory. I'm John Hickman of the Locked On Texan podcast, your team every day. And for the Baltimore Ravens, it just wasn't their day. Everybody was banged up on their roster, no Lamar Jackson. And the Houston Texans did what they were supposed to do against a great value version of the Baltimore Ravens. And that's dominated. CJ Stroud, I mean, chef's kiss when you look at his dominating day. 23 or 27 from the field, 4 TDs, getting the rookies involved. Hutchinson getting involved in the touchdowns. He had 2 on the day. That's his first career touchdown. And so he got popping with it. And then you look at a defense that created 3 turnovers on the day. This was a perfect game for the Houston Texans going into their bye week to show the entire NFL world that they are not done yet. Make sure you listen to the Locked On Texan podcast throughout the week.
John's all hyped up and happy, man. I'm glad he got something to be happy about. But I'm going to turn my attention to Baltimore real quick. They made the mistake of thinking, okay, we're just 1 DB away. We just need to get Kyle Hamilton back into the middle of the field. So we'll draft Malachi Starks and we'll sign Jair Alexander. That ain't their problem. The problem is they can't stop nobody. People running the ball all over the place. They can't get after the quarterback, and then they have one injury on the defensive line and one injury at quarterback, and they don't even resemble the same team that was on paper before the year.
No, not at all. And like week one, that offense was unstoppable. And we know the Derrick Henry fumble changed things, but we failed to also mention like the defense was not great in that game. It was a big reason why they lost, because even after the fumble, you got to stop Buffalo and not allow them to score a touchdown. And you're sitting in a situation now, if you're Baltimore, where you're 1-4. And I mean, the stats are not great for teams that are 1-4 at the start of the season to make the playoffs. And then next week, you got LA coming to town, the Rams. And whether Lamar Jackson plays or not, I have really little faith that they're going to win that game. They're going to be sitting at 1-5 heading into their bye week. Wow. And like the Bears are after that, which, okay, that's a winnable game. But then you got a short week, got to play the Dolphins, another winnable game. So they could kind of turn it, because you got Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns. So it's possible that they can lose, be 1-5, get the bye week, get healthy, and then reel off. I mean, hell, shoot. Oh, my God. Okay, Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets, Bengals. They could reel off 6 wins in a row. Easily. But do you have any faith right now that if they start up 1-5, even if they get the bye week, come back healthy, that they're going to be able to win 6 games in a row, get to 7-5, and be right back in the playoff picture at this moment in time? No. I certainly do not. I don't have a lot. It could happen, because I mentioned it could happen because I look at what they have on their schedule. So it's possible. But I wouldn't be banking on that at this point in time. As far as Houston goes, all right, cool. Got to win against great value Baltimore Ravens, as John said there. You beat the Titans last week. The quarterback said that they're ass after the game. You got to bye. And then you got Seattle. You got San Francisco. You got Denver. You got Jacksonville. We'll figure out about how good Houston is here in the next month, because right now this isn't really moving me based on what they did. And then also what they looked like last year, where things just didn't seem right.
Yeah, just did not seem right. So I mean, seeming right with the Chargers. I'm going to say it's because they've not only lost one really great offensive tackle, they've lost 2, at least for a shorter period of time, and that may affect their entire identity. It's not on the wide receivers. It's not on the fact that the defense is flying around. It's on that quarterback a little bit. Justin Herbert kind of, I'm telling you, man, he is the top 5 quarterback right now that everybody automatically puts up there that I'm always wary about. Here's my man Daniel Wade from Locked On Chargers.
Back-to-back weeks, the Chargers have played undisciplined, sloppy football. In back-to-back weeks, they've taken ugly losses. The Chargers got off to a hot start on Sunday, getting out 10-0 on the Commanders, and were driving to make it 17-0 potentially when Quentin Johnston turned the game on its head with a bad fumble that was recovered by the Commanders, leading to their first touchdown. After that, the end of the first half, Chargers have a chance to swing the momentum, and a Ladd McConkey punt return touchdown has them up 17-7, except it's called back by a roughing the kicker, and that was the story of the game. The Chargers could not get out of their own way. Back-to-back weeks with 10 or more penalties, back-to-back weeks with multiple turnovers, and that has been the calling card over the last couple of weeks. An undisciplined, sloppy football team who now has a game next week against the Dolphins with a chance to try to save their season from spiraling out of control. But for the full game breakdown, make sure to check out the Locked On Chargers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Sloppy play is going to drive Harbaugh crazy. Good news is I can already tell y'all, you play the Dolphins, y'all will be all right. Y'all will get a win next week.
Yeah, well, they don't. They're going to have some problems if that happens. I mean, Mike McDaniel's still employed, right? Like typically when these guys lose to the Panthers, they get fired the next day. I've been waiting for that all morning, not wishing that the man loses his job. But yeah, look, that's inexcusable to lose to the Giants, losing to Washington with Jaden Daniels coming back after missing 2 weeks. Like that's not crazy at all. I do think that's a game where you got to think about like what team like really wants it more, kind of desperation even early on in the season. And I'm thinking that Washington knew like they had to have that game and they got it. So I'm good for Dan Quinn and for that team to be able to get that win. But yeah, I mean, Giants loss is that's really the one. Because if you don't lose that game, you're sitting at 4-1, you're feeling still pretty good about yourself. But then when you lose back-to-back games against one opponent you shouldn't have lost to, another one that kind of was a little bit real in themselves, then you are in kind of back against the wall with the trip down to Miami next week, which again, a game they should win. And then after that, they have Indianapolis, and that'll be an interesting measuring stick game early on in this first third of the NFL season.
Should. Now Kansas City's gotten themselves back to where they look pretty good, and the Broncos. Chiefs come to town tonight, man. I got to do some Monday night football, so I'll be late on the dial tonight for those Jaguar fans waiting for some post game. But we'll have Locked On NFL tomorrow with Tyler Oland. Tyler, I have the first shot at telling you what's going to happen in this game with Jacksonville and Kansas City, and then I'll come through in the barbershop tomorrow. Julian, I think the Jaguars are going to be okay, but one thing I can guarantee, you're going to get the full Jaguars experience. They're going to look like gangbusters, and at some point in this game, they're going to be like, what are they doing? I hope we can hold the fort, though, and pull it out in a victory. That's what I think they're going to do.
If they win this game, are we talking about the Jags being for real?
Yeah, we're talking about them being for real.
Okay.
You got it. I was going to say something else, but we talk about them being for real. No moral victories, though. I don't want, if they lose a close game, it doesn't matter.
If they lose, they have Seattle and the Rams after that.
Yeah. So
are we then concerned about it spiraling?
Nah, we're going to go. Let's go. Man, let me get to tomorrow before I have to worry about all of that foolishness. Make sure y'all tap into Tyler Rowland, man, tomorrow morning. Also, Locked On Panther. Julian Council does a fabulous job. They won a game, and man, they done won 2 games now, so I'm sure that there's a lot to meat to pull off that bone. He'll have you covered with that. Make sure you check him out. We'll see you next time. We thank you for spending 31 minutes with us. We do not take it for granted here on Locked On NFL, and we'll see you next time.